Let me also thank those who are joining us online and welcome you to this briefing that is coming to you from the Media Coordination Meeting, which is being held in Nairobi in Kenya. My name is Wayne Musabayana. I'm Head of Communication at the African Union Commission. And with me this afternoon is His Excellency Professor Mohammed Belhocine, and he's the Commissioner for Education, Science, Technology and Innovation within the African Union. And today he's going to be briefing us on the roadmap of education as the theme of the year for 2024. I think that we will have something exciting. Yesterday I was hearing about paradigm shifts and things like that. So I think the Commissioner has a lot to unpack for us in terms of what is planned at continental level with regards to education. So Commissioner, I hand over to you for your briefing, after which we will then come to a question and answer section.
Thank you, Sister Winnie. Good afternoon. I don't know which language you prefer, Arabic, which is my mother language, or Berber, which is my second mother language, or Kiswahili, but I'm not very Mimi Sisumi Kiswahili Nzuri, or French, maybe, no?
Or English or Spanish?
Or bad English, which is the most largely spoken language in the world. So I'm quite expert in bad English.
we have interpretation, Excellency.
Yeah, no
so
problem.
Whichever one you select.
I'm just giving a bit of ice breaking. My colleagues, the translators, some of them are very happy with what I said.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon again. These times are quite stressful to everybody. We have the pandemic, and we are told another one is coming. We have the Russia-Ukraine crisis, and it means that we have nutritional problems and supply problems in terms of food, in terms of grains, in terms of fertilizers. We have also the debt crisis, financial crisis. We have climate change. We are seeing every day, floods here and there, and sometimes in our own places, floods, storms. We saw our brothers and sisters in Malawi, in Madagascar, in Mozambique, which suffered a lot from recent storms due to the climate change. And yet, last year, September 2022, someone who is very well aware of the global shape of our planet and our world, his name is Mr. Antonio Guterres. He is the Secretary General of the United Nations. Amongst all those crises, he would have probably been very much interested to convene a summit on one of those crises to discuss with the leaders of the world how to deal with it. No, he didn't pick up any of these. He picked up education. And he convened a summit on transforming education in New York in parallel with the United Nations General Assembly, September 2022. It speaks a lot about the vision of the United Nations, and it speaks a lot also about the depth of the education crisis, not only in our continent, but in the world in general. Indeed, as you know, there are these kind of common international objectives, which we call the Sustainable Development Goals, that have been discussed and adopted by the United Nations as a minimum development goals that each and every country should endeavor to reach by 2030. And also we in the African Union, we have the Agenda 2063. And under the Agenda 2063, there is a continental education strategy for Africa, which has set some goals and some priorities, and it is going to an end in 2025, meaning that in 2 years now, we will have to see what we have achieved. It is a 10-year plan, and we are now getting to the end of those 10 years, so we'll have to make sure that we have achieved what we have achieved and what are the challenges ahead and what are things that we need to tackle. So in this general context, we as the African Union also, we decided to organize a side event in New York to talk about transforming education in Africa as well. We prepared very seriously that side event with many of our partners, and particularly partners who are in charge or who are working on issues related to education. I want to mention here UNESCO, which mandate is on education, science, and culture. We worked also with UNICEF, which mandate is about children, the welfare of children in general, and their education in particular. We worked with the World Food Programme, which mandate also is to promote homegrown school feeding, to make sure that each and every child might have at least one meal per day when they go to school. And so on and so forth. There are also other partners. I will not mention all of them, but these are our three main partners. And we worked also with some heads of state and so on and so forth. And we had a very, very good attendance during that meeting. We had maybe eight heads of state, amongst which, the president of the African Union at the time, or the chairman of the African Union at the time, His Excellency President Macky Sall of Senegal. We had a number of other heads of state. We had, of course, our chairperson of the African Union. And they came up, and we had also some heads of those partners organizations. They were represented by their executive directors, their big bosses during that meeting. And that meeting came up with a declaration which, first and foremost, reminded the governments and member states that education remains a fundamental human right, and that human right applies to all levels of education, from early childhood education to higher education on the one side. And on the other side, they reminded also that, yes, being a fundamental human right, it should be afforded free of charge, at least for the first three levels, meaning primary, secondary, and tertiary level. And also they mentioned the necessity or the need of investing more in education. Why this focus on education at this point in time, and why also African countries should focus on education? Yes, since independence to today, a lot of efforts have been made. If you go now, there is barely no country without at least one university. Even smaller countries or the smallest islands have one university, and bigger countries have now many universities, many centers of excellence, many schools. The efforts to build infrastructure was there. The efforts to really bring education, bring alphabetization bring teaching to our youth was there. But the challenges also were there. One of the challenges is the demographic growth, because the more you build, the more you have children who are born, and the more you have to build more. That's a big challenge. Infrastructure didn't follow necessarily. The teaching profession also, which was very much respected in the 60s, 70s, became much less, given much less respect and consideration in the society. In the past, when you were a teacher, you were one of the most important persons, socially speaking, in your community. Nowadays, when you are a teacher, you are not considered as you were considered in the 60s and 70s. So this created a problem of people are no longer going to the teaching profession. And the fact that they don't go to the teaching profession, meaning that those who remain in the teaching profession are not necessarily the most qualified, because it has become less attractive than it was before. And also the problem that is now a global problem that is noticed by all experts is that even the quality of the teaching is going down. The quality of teaching, particularly quality of teaching of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, what we call STEM, is going down, is getting worse everywhere in the world. However, all these challenges are heavier in our continent, in Africa. They are heavier. And despite all the progress, despite the fact that the enrollment rate, for instance, kept going up, meaning that we are enrolling a percentage of children which is year by year has grown, and this not taking into consideration the level of income of the countries, etc. Everywhere, the growth rate of enrollment was increasing. However, when you look at the figures of not in terms of percentage, but in terms of a real figure, then the picture becomes dramatically different. Let me give you three figures. I'm not going to give you all the statistics, etc., but three figures that will show you the depth of the problem of education that we have in Africa. If we are to get a 100% coverage of schooling for all children, we have a deficit, as we are speaking now, for the whole continent of 17 million teachers. 17 million teachers. Not 17,000, not 170,000, 17 million. It means that really we have a long journey to go. Because when we say that, what does it mean practically, concretely? It means that those children who are going to school, they are too many for one teacher. Instead of having 20 or 25 children in a classroom, you will find 70 or 80 children in a classroom. And many, probably some of you or have gone through that process where you were more than 60 in a classroom. That is not a conducive environment for quality education. Okay? If I give you now a second figure, which is the number of children out of school. And when I talk about the number of children out of school, I'm talking globally, primary, secondary, lower secondary, and higher secondary levels. The three levels of primary and high school before you go to university. If you look at that figure globally, and if you don't look at the percentage, But if you look at the real number in Africa, this number is at 98 million. 98 million children that do not attend school. And this is not a figure that is given to you by me because I'm estimating. This is a work done by the World Bank, UNICEF, and UNESCO. And you could find it on the web. Those who are interested in having more details on this, we can share with them the links where you can find all these statistics published by World Bank and UNESCO. Third figure is the so I said about the teachers, I said about the rate of out-of-school children, which is almost 100 million, 98 million. And the third one is related to, as I was saying before, to quality of education. You know, how can we measure the quality of education? There are so many tests, you know, whereby you can measure. But let's take the simplest one at the lowest level one, which is called the education poverty. You know now there are these, you know, discrimination in poverty. You know, you have education poverty, you have shelter poverty, you have nutritional poverty, you have all these kinds of access to some parts of what would be the welfare of people. And you may have a very, very good house, so you are not in a difficult, you are not poor as far as housing is concerned. But if you have very bad education, so you are poor in terms of education. So this education poverty, how is it measured? It is measured by the assessment of the rate of children at age of 10 that have the capacity to read and understand a simple text, which is, of course, commensurate to their age and their capacity of reading and understanding. So that rate was already high before COVID-19. It was more than 80%. It was 80-something%. And after COVID, the estimates made by the same groups of experts tell us now that in Africa, it has reached 90%. What does it mean? It means that if you take 10 children and you ask them to read and tell you what do they understand about the text that you have given them to read, 9 of them will not pass. 9 of them will not be able to read it properly and to explain what it means properly. So these 3 figures tell us a big story, isn't it, in terms of where we are, the crisis that we are in. And that's why we took advantage of this summit that I was mentioning before, and we brought heads of state in Africa, and we brought experts of education from Africa, and we came up with this declaration. And in this declaration, we pushed and we got it, the member states and the heads of state and our chairperson said that, yes, it is important that education be considered as a theme of the African Union for 1 year. And the earlier, the better to keep the momentum of this summit of September 2022. So we took advantage of that summit. We started advocating. And we proposed that we made that proposal to the heads of state in February 2023 in Addis Ababa, and the heads of state of Africa decided that because 2023 was already taken by the AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and therefore they said, okay, you will have that year to prepare, and 2024 will be the theme of the year on education. So it's It's a good victory, isn't it? You would agree with me that it's a good victory. But it's not enough, because it's just the starting point. So now, what do we intend to do during that year? The fact that we have that year as a year of education, it will help us galvanize all energies, all stakeholders who are interested in moving this agenda of education. And we are working on preparing a roadmap, which I presented yesterday to the ministers of foreign affairs, for them to give us the go ahead and to make us improve it, so that it be presented next February to the heads of state. So when they decided that, then this roadmap, we wrote it, and we are taking like the slogan for this roadmap will be, I'm going to quote now, it will read, "Educate an African fit for the 21st century." Educate an African fit for the 21st century, building resilient education systems, for increased access to inclusive, lifelong, quality, and relevant learning in Africa. So it's a long sentence, but it covers more or less all aspects of education in Africa. And this will be for us an opportunity to push and to advocate for the urgency to revisit the policies related to education, and to make sure that all aspects are taken into consideration. So we created a technical working group. I'm not going too much into the details, but I just want to emphasize one thing, is that we are not working alone in a silo. We are working with all our partners. We are working with the member states. We are working with the UN agencies. We are working with the NGOs, African NGOs, international NGOs who have interest in education, to see what we can all together do in 2024, so that we spotlight education during the whole year, and we push countries to go further in their policies related to education. And the roadmap that we intend to finalize and to propose to all countries, in that roadmap we have identified 10 priorities. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I think it's worth it to give you the headings, the heads of these 10 priorities. What are these 10 priorities? First, and you would agree with me, reforming the teaching profession. It is key. You cannot have quality education with unqualified or less qualified teachers. So there is a need to reform the teaching profession through comprehensive teacher programs, teacher development programs. Second, we need to focus on teaching science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This is very, very, very important. As I said, if you have a child of 10 years that has been attending school for 6 years or 5 years and is not capable of reading, then why are we investing? Why are we putting money in school? It's better to close the school then. If the quality is not there, it's waste of money, it's waste of time, it's waste of hope at the end of the day. The third one is enhancing the teaching of African history. Not only enhancing it, but decolonizing the teaching of history of Africa. And this is a quest coming from member states. Many times they come about this. We need to review the way we teach African history to our kids, and we need also to see what is it that we are teaching, which has been written not by Africans, but which is the old colonial way of teaching the African history to our kids. So we have to look at that, and it is very important to re-own our own history. Then, of course, I didn't mention before, but it is part of it. I mean, vocational and technical education and training at higher education level, and also at lower mid level, because this is also a very important challenge that we have nowadays. When you go and you analyze the TVET programs that we have in Africa, most of the times you are training young people who, after their trainings, cannot really find a job because the way they are trained is not adapted, or the adaptation to the market is not there. So they do not match with the market needs. So you teach them, and at the end of the teaching, there is no job for them because they are not really well prepared to take the opportunities, the job opportunities that the local market can offer them. We also will focus on digitalization. And this is an important point, because we think that by focusing on digitalization, we will need to see how best we can equip our teachers with the necessary skills to become conversant with the digital life, and to be able to mentor the kids or the children, the pupils, the students, to use the digital technology to get knowledge and to get skills. So it is a two-pronged approach, one directed to the teachers, of course the other one directed to the children. Although we know there is a big obstacle for that, which is the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure in our countries. Because we were taught by COVID-19 that countries who have, at least in some of their areas, good infrastructure, so they could more or less be able to mitigate, if not completely overcome, the difficulties to have teaching, face-to-face teaching in some countries, and in some provinces, in some countries, it was a good asset for the countries, because they have good connectivity and they have the capacity to use computers, and to use the capacity of the teachers to talk to their students through the network. But still, we have a long way to go that direction because of the infrastructure. We will be also focusing, this is the sixth area, on creating a healthy and conducive learning environment for improved learning outcomes, including, amongst others, school feeding, health, and peace education programs. School feeding is very important. It has been demonstrated in different regions of the world, and in many of our African countries, that when you offer one meal to the children, so first the enrollment rate increases. Second, the dropout rate decreases. Third, issues related to malnutrition are well controlled, because you are preventing the children from malnutrition. The performance of the student at school becomes better because he is not hungry. He can focus on what the teacher is saying. If you bring a hungry child and he doesn't have anything to eat, so you are, of course, his capacity or his performance will not be the same. So this is on school feeding. But we are encouraging in Africa another process which we call homegrown school feeding, meaning that we are encouraging school feeding, but using products produced locally, not imported by the World Food Program from I don't know where, from the US or from Japan or from China. No. We are talking about homegrown school feeding. Why? Because homegrown school feeding creates like a circular economy. So first, the children will benefit from fresh products produced locally, but meaning that the farmers locally are benefiting from the fact that the school has given them a contract. It's buying their food. So it means that the whole circuit of value chain is benefiting not only the children, but it's benefiting the whole local community. Of course, the issue related to peace education is very important, because we need to teach what does it mean, what peace does mean, and how can we build peace, and how can we avoid conflicts, how can we, the culture of dialogue, the culture of democracy, the culture of respect of each other, and so on and so forth. And there are guidelines, and there is documentation there, but we will need to advocate with member states to introduce these kinds of education programs in the curricula of the schools. The same with health, having a healthy lifestyle. If you explain to children why why it's not advised to smoke or to eat too much sugar or to eat too much fat, and so on and so forth. So you are raising their awareness about their own health, and sometimes it may prove sufficient enough to have a healthy person for the whole life. Then the next item on which we would like also to focus is to protect the rights to education for women, youth, and vulnerable groups like children who have been displaced, forcibly displaced, or handicapped children, etc., etc. I was saying that the right to education is a fundamental human right, and it is more so for those vulnerable groups, and it is more so for girls, because we know and we have evidence that after COVID-19, when schools resumed activity, the percentage of girls which did not come back to school is higher than the percentage of boys that did not come back to school. Enhance the capacity of having, trying to match, and it comes back to what I was saying earlier on Tibet. We will help countries to match the data collected from schools and the data collected from the market, the job market, so that the trainings at school will be adapted to the jobs offers offered by the market. Then we will, the last two ones are not less important. The ninth one is on establishing and strengthening multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder partnership. Education, yes, I said earlier on that member states are the duty bearers, because when you have a fundamental human right, usually it's the state which is the main duty bearer. But families have the responsibility. Communities have a responsibility. NGOs who work in the area have a responsibility. International organizations have a responsibility. So it's really our collective responsibility to make this orientation of a new vision or of education in our continent become a reality. And finally, you can't do any of this if you don't guarantee sustainable and important increasing investment in terms of money. Because don't put money on the table. If you don't finance properly your education system, you will fail. And financing education system is again primarily the responsibility of the state, but not only, because we can also count on the private sector in our countries. We can count on international organizations, be they continental or global. We can count on those wealthy families. We can count. So it's again a collective responsibility. But at the center of this is, of course, the state itself. So these are the main elements that I wanted to share with you related to what we intend to do next year during the year of where the theme of the year will be education, and also to just by in conclusion, it is not directly linked to this, but it is indirectly linked to this, is that we are discussing with the African Development Bank to create, and we hope that by end of 2023 it will be created, to create what we call the African Education, Science, Technology and Innovation Fund. There will be a fund that will be managed by the African Development Bank and will help countries to benefit from some amounts in terms of when they have projects that will be deemed fundable by the African Development Bank. So that fund is not yet there, but all the preparatory work has been done, and the bank needs to have at least $5 million US dollars given by member states before it starts operating that fund and adding money on that, and opening the possibility for member states to borrow at very, very, very low rates the money to do something on education, science, technology, and innovation. So far, we have two countries who have already pledged $2 million each, which is Botswana and Ghana. And we will be working very hard now to convince other countries, and I'm very confident that we will be convincing other countries that would pledge some more money. So they will put this in the basket. The bank will come and add some money in that basket, and all African countries could benefit from that basket, and it will be a very good opportunity for us also to make 2024 a shining year, talking about education and advocating about education. But all this will not be possible without you guys and ladies here, because we need you. We need you to advocate. We need you to send the right messages. We need you to keep people aware that education is at the heart of a healthy community. Young people are the main asset of our continent. You are the main asset of our continent. But you are the main asset only if you are given the skills and the opportunities to apply and to make your skills flourish, and you nurture them and you play a social role. If you are illiterate and you are in the streets, you become victims of terrorists. You become victims of drug traffickers. You become victim of human trafficking. Knowledge is the best barrier against all these scourges that we all, witness in our communities. So let us work together, and let you be our best spokespersons about 2024 Year for Education in Africa. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for that very comprehensive breakdown of what is planned for 2024 as the year of education. I think as media people and as communicators, we really have benefited a lot and have much to impart to our different audiences. So those of us who are from the media, this is your chance to ask your questions. Please indicate by a show of hands. And then when you're asked to speak, please tell us first your name and then the organization you're working for, and then go ahead. I see you're ready to fire. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Minna Farou. I'm a TV presenter at Extra News TV channel from Egypt. My question is to you, Your Excellency. Some experts believe that the Polish educational system is the best in the world. Out of your experience and expertise, what do you believe the main challenges, I mean, in addition to all what you have mentioned already, in the African continent with regard to the education? Is it the real will, or it's just the adoption of a specific maybe curriculum or educational system, or it's the resources? And how can we as African countries unite together in order to enhance the education with all its benefits, and how really, as you just mentioned, education and knowledge are the best barriers against all negative movements or any terrorist ideas or extreme actions? Thank you.
Commissioner? I'm not seeing any other hands, so
Yes,
I think.
okay.
All right, one has just gone up.
let me answer, because I didn't take notes, and then we can take two
All
or
right.
three together, and I will take notes and I will answer one by one. Usually that's what I do.
Yes.
Thank you. You know, there is no one model fits all. That's for sure. And the crisis that I am saying, that I was describing, the global crisis that we have in Africa in terms of education, if you break down the elements, you will find that countries differ one from another. You know, in some countries it's a matter of infrastructure. In some countries it's a matter of lack of qualified teachers. In the other one is the poverty of the families themselves, the fees, the school fees that families cannot afford. So it has to be really tailored to the real specific problems of each society. And you are right. I mean, we need to look at other models, not to replicate them, because replication may not be really the right way to do. Is how you get, you know, if you go to a country where you have high results in terms of quality, in terms of universal coverage, meaning that you are covering all the children at all levels of the education system. What is it that they reached that level, and how can we adapt what they did to use it in our own countries? Maybe 40 years ago, China was not yet. It didn't appear as it would be the first power or amongst the first powers in the world in 2023. But now, if you look at the year of COVID-19. The 2 years, the first year after COVID-19, the second year, when you look globally what China did, it is very impressive. I mean, the structure of the genome of the virus was first completely identified by Chinese experts, and they made it available to the whole world. That facilitated the development of vaccines, as you know. But that was made free of charge, available to everybody. At the same time, that year, I believe, they sent this space station. So how come a country could jump those leaps, you know, one by one, very, very fast, etc.? So what are the ingredients that are available in the Chinese community? Can we be inspired by that experience? Take Japan, 1945. It is a completely destroyed country, destroyed physically. You agree? They were bombed, they were destroyed. We had Nagasaki, we had Hiroshima, and so on. And therefore, how come in the 60s, 70s, Japan remains one of the highest technologically developed powers in the world. How come in less than 50 years they could catch up and play in the backyard of the big powers in terms of technology and knowledge and science? So there are lessons to take from there. And we must take those lessons. We must see what from those lessons can be drawn up in our different countries with our different context and build systems that really speak to our people, our communities, with our cultural values. I mean, even our cultural values are not all uniform. As you know, Africa is very rich from its diverse cultures and histories. So I think I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
Okay, I saw Kennedy's hand, and then we come to the gentleman on the left.
Thank you, Commissioner. My question would be, my name is Kennedy Abwao. I work for Pan-African News Agency. My question would be on the use of digital education, computers in classrooms. It doesn't seem to peak. We don't see teachers using or teaching using digital educational methods. What would you say is the problem? Where does the problem lie? And then on the issue of transition from all the levels, from primary to medium level to the higher, there seems to be a problem there with regard to transition. I think so many people when you require that that transition should be 100%, it affects quality. I don't know what you would advise us on that. Is it the lack of infrastructure in education, that the investment, is it too low, or what would the problem be?
All right.
Yeah.
Please go ahead with your question. Tell us your name and your news organization.
Okay, my name's Muhoro Pius from K254 Nairobi News. So, Muhoro Pius, Pius, from K254 Nairobi News. My question was on the plan on digital literacy hearing on matter.
It's your first question and his question are more or less the same. So on digital education, again, you know, we used to talk about the digital divide between the North and the South. But even in the South, I think that we have many digital divides between countries who are already, you know, who have already created like good networks of optic fiber to make sure that all the whole country is or almost the whole country is well connected. And one such example is Rwanda, for instance, where you know you have quite good a good network of digital application. That is, you can use it everywhere. So others are maybe a little bit not yet completely have not yet completely developed their networks. And as long as you don't have such networks well developed, it is very difficult actually to implement digital education in classrooms, because if you want to do that, you must have a good bandwidth, good connectivity, good speed in connectivity, so that you can, you know, there are so many now applications for learning, you know, or for teaching on the web. And some of them are very, very attractive, and one can imagine that even if they are written in English or in Japanese, locally, if you have somebody who can translate, you can duplicate them, translate them in your own local language, and children will benefit from them very, very well. But the basic condition is to have the infrastructure following. And then when I talk about infrastructure, I talk about hardware infrastructure and also software infrastructure. Software infrastructure meaning that you can afford to give one tablet or one little computer to each student so that they can use it permanently, etc., etc. And also, this doesn't go also without challenges, because it shouldn't distract the children. When you have a computer, you can go and find games and play games instead of following the lesson that your teacher is is giving. So there are all these aspects of digital education must be taken into consideration. But there are experiences in countries that show that it has, at least during the COVID-19, it has helped countries who have a good infrastructure to make sure that their students are not lagging, and that they could achieve the programs of the year, and they didn't have a blank year as we had in many of our countries and in many of our regions. That's on digital education. The other question of Mr. Kenneth is, I hope I answered your question, Mohoro, by what I said. If not, we can still discuss on the transitions between levels. This is yes, you are right. I mean, I think this is a headache everywhere in the world. You can't. I mean, it's very difficult to have 100% at year 1 and to find 100% at year 15 or 20 after starting education. The problem may not be to maintain everybody. Of course, the effort should be made to maintain maximum of the students from one level to the other. But the issue at stake is also when you have those dropouts for lack of performance or for any other reason. What are the alternative channels that you can offer so that if the kids do not follow the main track, that there are alternative tracks which will give them also a chance to be socially integrated instead of getting again in the streets without any perspective of social integration. I think that's the most important, and there are efforts to that direction, and mainly through TVET. With all its aspects, because TVET is a very large. When we say TVET, vocational education and training goes from electricity to computers to hairdressing to mechanics to so many different possibilities that could be offered for the kids depending on their interests and the opportunities that are offered to them. So I think, I hope I have answered. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more hands going up. So let me take this opportunity to thank you very much, colleagues from the media and all those who've been watching us online for attending this workshop. Let me say a very special thank you to His Excellency, the Commissioner, Professor Mohammed Belhocine, who has been introducing and then unpacking the theme of the year for next year. And he's in charge of the education and the innovation and science technology within the African Union. Let me thank also our brothers and sisters who've been doing the interpretation for us from this morning up until this moment. That has really enabled us to be able to speak to each other and to really grasp the different themes that have been discussed today. Our next briefing will be on Sunday. So those of you who want to catch up, Molalet will be sharing that information. But for now, I wish you a very pleasant evening, and we'll see you on Sunday. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.